Cheating wife and her boss were publicly exposed by husband at a charity event. The black tie around my neck felt like a noose. Ironic, considering I was the one about to execute a plan months in the making. The ballroom of the Westmore Hotel glittered with chandeliers and the jewelry of Boston's elite. The annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala was the social event of the season and the perfect stage for the drama I was about to unleash across the room. My wife, Rebecca, laughed at something. Her boss, Marcus Cunningham, had just whispered in her ear. Her hand lingered on his arm a moment too long. Anyone watching might have dismissed it as innocent collegiality, but I knew better. I had known for 8 months, 3 weeks, and 4 days. Rebecca looked stunning in her midnight blue gown, her dark hair swept up to reveal the diamond necklace I had given her for our 10th anniversary. Marcus stood close to her, distinguished in his custom tuxedo, wedding ring glinting on his left hand. His wife, Sophia, was across the room, chatting with donors, completely unaware that her husband was sleeping with my wife. I checked my watch. 20 minutes until I was scheduled to give my speech as a major donor and board member. 20 minutes until I destroyed 2 marriages and possibly my own reputation in the process. Another scotch, sir. A server appeared at my elbow. No, thank you, I replied. I need a clear head tonight. The affair had begun innocently enough: late nights at the office, weekend conferences, urgent business trips. Rebecca was a rising star at Cunningham Financial, and Marcus was grooming her for partnership. At least, that's what I believed for the first 6 months. Then came the text message I wasn't meant to see when Rebecca handed me her phone to take. A photo at our friend's wedding. I can still taste you. Meeting at the usual place tomorrow? My world collapsed in that moment, but I didn't confront her. Something cold and calculated took over. I needed to know everything before I made my move. I hired a private investigator who documented their Tuesday afternoon hotel meetings, their intimate lunches, the secret weekend in Chicago when Rebecca told me she was at a financial summit in Denver. Most damning of all were the emails, hundreds of them discussing not just their affair, but how they laughed about deceiving me and Sophia. How Marcus had promoted Rebecca not for her financial acumen, but to keep her close. How they planned to continue indefinitely, enjoying the stability of their marriages while indulging their passion. I sipped my water, forcing myself to breathe slowly as Rebecca caught my eye across the room and waved. I smiled back, the picture of the supportive husband. She had no idea I had emptied our joint accounts that morning. No idea I had already sent copies of the emails and photos to Sophia and the board of directors, timed to arrive tomorrow morning. No idea I had the flash drive in my pocket that would connect to the gala's presentation system. Marcus approached the podium, tapping the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 15th Annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala. I'm Marcus Cunningham, and on behalf of Cunningham Financial, our title sponsor for the 10th consecutive year, I'd like to thank you all for your incredible generosity. Applause filled the room. Marcus continued, outlining the company's commitment to children's health care, their dedication to the community. His charisma was undeniable. It was part of what had drawn Rebecca to him. And now, Marcus said, I'd like to invite Daniel Foster, one of our most dedicated board members and generous donors, to say a few words about the impact of our work. That was my cue. I stood, straightening my jacket, and made my way to the podium. Marcus clasped my shoulder in a friendly gesture as we passed. The room quieted as I stood before the microphone. 300 expectant faces turned toward me. I looked at Rebecca, who smiled encouragingly. I looked at Sophia Cunningham, elegant and unsuspecting. I looked at the flash drive in my hand, and in that moment, I made a different choice. Thank you, Marcus. My voice was steady. Good evening, everyone. I'm Daniel Foster, and like many of you here tonight, my life has been touched by the incredible work of Boston Children's Hospital. I launched into my prepared speech about the hospital's groundbreaking cancer treatment that had saved my niece's life, about the dedication of the doctors and nurses, about the importance of continued funding. Not once did I mention the affair. Not once did I reach for the flash drive containing proof of my wife's betrayal. The revenge I had meticulously planned for months evaporated in the face of the real purpose of the evening, helping children who had done nothing to deserve the suffering they endured after the speech. Amid congratulations and handshakes, I made my way to Rebecca. "You are wonderful," she said, kissing my cheek. "We need to talk," I replied quietly. "Not here. Tomorrow." A flicker of alarm crossed her face, quickly masked. "Is everything okay?" "No," I said simply. But making a scene here wouldn't help anyone. I turned away, heading for the exit. I had made my decision. I wouldn't expose them publicly, wouldn't derail the charity event with personal drama. But neither would I continue living a lie. The next morning, I sat at our kitchen table with the evidence spread before me when Rebecca came downstairs. She had come home late from the gala, slipping into the guest bedroom without waking me. "Daniel, what is all this?" Her voice trembled as she recognized the hotel receipts, the photographs, the printed emails. 8 months, I said calmly. 8 months you've been sleeping with Marcus Cunningham. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? The color drained from her face. She sank into a chair, her hand covering her mouth. "I was going to expose you both last night," I continued. "I had it all planned. The emails projected on the big screen, the photos, all of it. I wanted to hurt you the way you've hurt me. Why didn't you?" She whispered, "Because I realized that would make me like you selfish, caring only about my own feelings regardless of who gets hurt in the process." I stood up. "I've already contacted a divorce attorney. You'll be hearing from them this week." "Daniel, please. I can explain." "Save it," I interrupted. "There's nothing to explain. But you should know that Sophia received copies of these emails this morning. So did the board of directors." Her eyes widened in horror. "You didn't." "I did. Not in public, not as a spectacle, but they deserve to know the truth. Marcus isn't just cheating on his wife, he's abusing his position of power at the company." Rebecca's phone began ringing. Marcus's name flashed on the screen. She ignored it, tears streaming down her face. "I loved you," I said, my voice finally breaking. "I would have done anything for you. I'm sorry," she whispered. "I never meant for this to happen, and yet you let it happen, day after day, for 8 months." I gathered the evidence into a folder. "I'll be staying with my brother for a while. I suggest you figure out where you're going to live, because the house is being sold." The fallout was swift and merciless. Marcus was forced to resign when the board discovered he had been using company resources to fund their rendezvous. Sophia filed for divorce, taking their children to her parents' home in Vermont. Rebecca lost her job and her reputation in the financial industry. I retreated from society for months, nursing my wounds in private. Friends tried to reach out, but I wasn't ready for their sympathy or their questions. The divorce proceedings dragged on, with Rebecca fighting for assets I had already protected with the help of my attorney. 6 months after the gala, I received an unexpected visitor at my new apartment. "Sophia Cunningham, I wanted to thank you," she said when I invited her in, "for having the decency to tell me privately. It would have been so much worse to find out in public. I almost did expose them publicly," I admitted. "I had it all planned," she smiled sadly. "But you didn't. That says a lot about who you are, Daniel." We talked for hours that day, two broken people who understood each other's pain. Sophia had started a small art gallery, channeling her grief into something productive. I had thrown myself into volunteer work at the hospital, finding purpose. In helping others, our friendship developed slowly, cautiously. Neither of us was ready for anything more, both still healing from profound betrayals. But there was comfort in having someone who truly understood, who didn't offer platitudes or rush the grieving process. 2 years later, I stood in Sophia's gallery, admiring her latest exhibition, a series of landscapes that captured both desolation and hope. The divorce was long finalized. I had heard through mutual friends that Rebecca had moved to Chicago, presumably to be with Marcus, though that relationship had reportedly fallen apart within months. "What do you think?" Sophia asked, appearing beside me. "They're beautiful," I replied honestly. "Especially this one." I pointed to a painting of a sunrise over a barren field, the first golden rays transforming the landscape. "That's my favorite too," she said. "I've titled it after the storm." I smiled at the aptness of the name. "Sophia, would you like to have dinner with me tonight? Not as friends, but as a date." She looked surprised, then thoughtful. "Are you sure you're ready for that? That we're ready?" "I think we've both been healing for a long time," I said. "And I'd like to see if there's something more between us." Her smile was like the sunrise in her painting, tentative at first, then radiant. "I'd like that very much." That night, over dinner, we talked about everything except our former spouses. We discussed books and films, our hopes for the future, the people we had become through adversity. For the first time in years, I felt a genuine connection with someone who knew my worst moments and still saw value in me. 5 years after the gala, Sophia and I stood together at another charity event, this time as husband and wife. The journey from betrayal to this new happiness had been long and often painful. There had been setbacks and moments of doubt, nights when old wounds seemed too deep to ever fully heal. But standing there with her hand in mine, I knew that the decision I made that night at the podium to choose dignity over public revenge had been the first step toward this unexpected joy. The exposure of the affair had still brought consequences for Rebecca and Marcus, but it had happened in a way that preserved some measure of humanity for all involved. "Any regrets?" Sophia asked quietly, seeming to read my thoughts. I looked at her, this strong, compassionate woman who had faced heartbreak and emerged with her grace intact, and shook my head. "Not one," I replied truthfully. "Every step, even the painful ones, led me here. Sometimes losing what you thought you wanted opens the door to what you truly need." In seeking revenge, I had found something far more valuable: the chance to rebuild with integrity, to love again without fear, and to discover that happiness can grow even in the most damaged places. The end.